Hi, Jean. How are you? Good. Okay, thank you everyone for coming today to our Executive Committee meeting of Tuesday, January 26, 2022. The first thing before we do the roll call, I have a request for Paul to be on here. Can I have a motion? Eden and Linda. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Roll call. Guess we got everybody here. All right. Paul, you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Right, thank you. First thing on our agenda is approval of the minutes from June 21st, 2022. Can I have a motion? Betty, thank you. Rachel. Any comments, corrections, additions to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, first thing, Springdale Cemetery minutes. Any members or minutes? No member wants to discuss it? Okay. No county auditor reports, so we don't have anything there. Headington Oaks Financial.
Those are in your packet, Mr. Chairman, starting on page 8. I know we didn't have a Finance Committee meeting this month, but you can see the balance sheet for the period ending May 31st, and where we are with accounts receivable on the following page. So, you know, if you've got any questions, myself or Heather will be happy to try and answer them for you. Just at a high level, I know we've got a meeting scheduled Thursday afternoon with the vendor that you approved at your most recent board meeting to try and tackle some of those additional accounts receivable items.
Okay, then what about, as long as we're in the Headington Oaks, what about the bond situation? Sales.
Sure thing, Mr. Chairman. So we are scheduled to close on the sale of the real estate agreement on Friday, August 5th, if that's right. Let me get a calendar up real quick here. Yeah, so Friday, August 5th. Thursday, August 11th, we will close on the bonds. We went to market last week and got very favorable rates in terms of where, much better than what we thought we were going to get and what I had communicated to you in a memo last week. Pulling up the information now. That's the wrong document. Heather, can you talk real quick about kind of interest rates and, 'cause I don't have the email handy in terms of where we ended up with the sale. Let's see.
I'm going to pull it up on mine also. I believe it was a real interest rate of about 3.6% with the, oh, is it on? I'm just too far away from it.
Here we go. Yeah, all right, I found it. 3.63 essentially was the real interest rate. What that means is, I think we had been estimating a savings to the taxpayers between the old debt service and this new debt service of about $24 million in change. The net savings is going to be 31.5. Happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
That's fantastic news. So glad to hear that. Okay, Peoria County Enterprise Zone Report.
So that's on page 10 of your packet, Mr. Chairman. It shows the activity through the end of June this year. Happy to answer any questions on that. The local governments that are part of both the urban enterprise zone and the rural enterprise zone are working to finalize any requests that they might have to the map amendment. Every fall, we go through a map amendment process where the municipalities in the county that are partners in either one of those have the opportunity to request either to remove property from the enterprise zone or to add property to the enterprise zone. So that'll come forward later this fall, like it does every fall.
All right, Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity update. I'm sorry, Jim. Yes, go ahead.
Scott, on the new updates for the enterprise zone, said permit dates, but they're highlighted as new. I did not believe that we included residential projects for enterprise zone credits.
As written into both of those ordinances, residential projects are included as eligible projects. So they are eligible. That's a change from the old enterprise zone into this current iteration that I don't want to say new because it's going on 6 or 7 years old at this point. But this is the difference, Mr. Dillon, is this is the first time we've actually seen residential projects seek enterprise zone benefits, and we looked at it, and they were in fact eligible.
And then, so correct me if I'm wrong here, the yellow highlight means new project shown to us, correct?
Correct.
So why are we seeing something that was applied for permit date in February, and now all of a sudden where they're showing their permits expire in September? So that is a 5-month gap from the time that this project was supposedly applied for to current.
Great question, Mr. Dillon, and not to put the chairman on the spot, but that's a function of permit reporting in this specific example from the city of Chillicothe, since they were the permitting entity. So we were only made aware of it once the permitting process, or once Chillicothe, made us aware of the permits that had been pulled.
Good questions, Mr. Dillon. Thank you. Okay. Now we're on to the Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So last month, the committee had asked that we provide you with the draft ordinance for racial equity and impact assessment tool. This is the first recommendation out of the Joint City-County Commission on Racial Justice and Equity. It's here as an informational item today, so it's not for approval or action. It is a document, though, that has been adopted by the Joint Commission and has been then forwarded on to both ourselves in the city. The ordinance itself is pretty straightforward in terms of what its goals and objectives are. The key really area is towards the bottom of page 12 in your packet, item number 2, and that is where we're going to, should the board adopt this, we would create a tool that assures that your actions and through the policy decisions you make and the votes you take on resolutions and ordinances each month meet certain criteria or have been evaluated with certain criteria in mind. And those criteria to be evaluated are outlined in section 2 there, which includes A at the bottom of page 12 through F at the top of page 13. The tool itself has not been created because you've not adopted the ordinance yet. We really are just putting it in front of you at this point for your information and any discussion you might have. It is, based on the work of the Joint Commission, a pretty consistent tool that other communities have adopted. The only thing, quite frankly, that I changed in terms of the effective date was should you adopt it, putting it out to January 1. They originally had it in September, and by the time we get it to you, you deliberate on it, we adopt it, and we create an administrative tool to start using. It's the most appropriate to me to make the effective date the first of the year. Happy to try and answer any questions the committee might have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Blair.
Do we think this is going to require another staff person to manage or increase any kind of budgetary costs?
Great question, Dr. Blair. This would be a tool that, from a staffing perspective, either our Chief Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer position would be responsible for, or the line staff position that has also been budgeted for that will report to the Chief DEI Officer. So no additional staff than what we already have planned.
Thank you. And with the effective date of January 1st, is this going to affect the budget at all for this year?
That's the caveat. The FY23 budget, based on where we're at in that process, would be adopted prior to implementation. So the first time we would look at it from a budgetary process in an entire annual budget would be the FY24 budget.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bryant, do you have any comments since you serve on that committee?
Yes, I do serve on the steering committee for this Racial Justice and Equity Commission. I was part of coming up with some of the language when we were meeting, and I agree with this ordinance. I support it. I think it's a good thing. I think it moves us forward. It at least keeps us conscious of how we move forward. Even if, it makes us think about our decisions as we make them along the way. I just think it makes us very conscious of our decisions.
Absolutely. Certainly does. It's just another one of our checks boxes that we have to do when we make purchase orders and we buy things and we do different things. We have to check that we'll make sure that we're adhering to this particular ordinance. Thank you. Tax abatement program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's no materials in your packet for this. This is something Chairman Rand asked me to put on the agenda, but I think that was before he knew he was going to be absent today. This is in relationship to the program that City Councilman John Kelly came and spoke to the committee about pre-pandemic. Probably the only update from that conversation that the councilman had with this committee is that a key function of that program requires change in legislation, and that even though that legislation had been introduced previously, it has not moved anywhere. It's never gotten out of committee, let alone a vote on the full floor of either one of the chambers. From Councilman Kelly's perspective, any benefit that could be derived from that program is not going to really be able to be effectuated until the change in state law happens. And what that was, for those of you that remember, is creating a state income tax deduction, essentially, or allowing state income taxes to play a role in the new construction of owner-occupied housing within certain zip codes in the city. I'm sure Chairman Rand will ask me to put it on the agenda next month when he's back.
All right. Any other questions about that? We'll just defer till next month then. Okay, Peoria County flag design. Nice little write-up in here.
Gretchen's actually going to talk about that.
Give me 1 second.
Oh, audio visual. Okay. Wonder why, huh?
Patience here, of course there is.
Yes.
Oh, did it come up? Great. Yeah, Peoria.
Is your live stream your own.
Live streaming, that's right. Thank you for that reminder, Scott. We had a couple board members approach us about interest in doing a Peoria County flag design contest. As you can see, we have the federal flag and our state flag, but we do not have an official county flag of any sort. So I did look into it a little more. And, why create a Peoria County flag to start with? Flags, pretty obvious, they are a unifying symbol. There's something you stand behind. There's something that represents something that you feel passionate about. And, you stake your flag in the ground and, this is who I am, what I stand for. And many flags are obviously regional, so this would be for our county. I think it's also good preparation for our bicentennial. If you don't know, we are turning 200 in 2025. So we are already kind of, doing some preliminary planning for that. And I think this would be a nice addition to have some additional artwork that we could use in coordination with that. And kind of selfishly, it gives a little bit of improved design options. We can talk a little bit about our seal here in a minute. But that seal is very hard to translate into different medium. So it's not really designed for that. But a flag, on the other hand, when well designed, you can really get creative with it. So my first question when approached about a flag was, well, why not use just the county seal? Why not put that on a flag and call it a day? And in my research, that is really a hard no-no. Don't do that. So one of the things is seals are designed to be read on a piece of paper, small, 6, maybe a foot in front of you. As you can see from our seal up there, everywhere, it's very detailed. It has a lot of detailed parts, very small things. The eagle's very detailed. The serif lettering on Peoria County, Illinois is very thin and narrow. It's not able to be read at a distance, 30 plus feet in the air. It's not meant to be seen far away to be recognizable. You could put anybody's name on that seal and it could represent it at this point. So it doesn't really adapt well. But there are some good flag design principles out there. The North American Vexillological Association, which studies flag design, has come up with really 5. We added 6 in there, design elements that you should really look for. And I'm not going to be able to do it justice today, but I highly recommend Roman Mars's TED Talk on this subject called Why City Flags May Be the Worst Design Thing You've Never Noticed. And he does a really good job of making you a believer in what flag design should be and what are good flag designs, and you'll be able to point them out yourselves. But to summarize, 1, keep it simple. So a seal, not simple. Use meaningful symbolism. It's kind of obvious it should be something that represents your area in some way. Try to stick to 2 to 3 basic colors. 4, no lettering or seals, no lettering of any kind. If you're trying to represent something, as they say, if you have to put the name of it on there, you failed. Not doing it. Be distinctive or be related. So that's where you'll see a lot of flags, red, white, and blue, because they kind of echo the federal flag, things like that. Or be totally distinctive, go either way. So pick one or the other. And then we kind of added in 6 for things for our judges to consider. Consider real world structure. So can I see it from far away? What will it look like on a flagpole flying? What will it look for hanging from a pole, on a flagpole, just behind us visually? Can I put it on a pencil? Can I also put it on something, a billboard, There. So let's take a look at a great flag design, Chicago's flag. It fits the NAVA good design criteria that we just went through. This is really far over, okay. It's simple. It has meaningful symbolism. I won't go into it too much, but the blue lines up top are for the waterways near Chicago, and the 4 stars represent 4 significant events in Chicago's history. It only uses a few basic colors that are not too odd, I will say, colors. It is definitely no lettering or seals. It's distinctive, and it is widely adopted by people, but it's alterable too. So I'll just go through a few of these examples, meaning that you can alter this flag and it's still that flag and it still represents Chicago. So Obviously, you start on the left, there's mugs with a flag in it. So the flags, it's a flag. But the mugs, you can add on there. You can add the skyline below it. It's still the flag. You can take it just down to a star. It's still the flag. It's still obvious that's Chicago. You can add the rainbow for pride. You can add it into as an element, like the NASCAR Chicago Street Weekend on there. They use the flag colors, but they also incorporate the flag right above NASCAR. It's very obvious that is a Chicago event. You can change the stars to hearts. You know, even if you took off Sweet Home Chicago under there, like, you still know that's Chicago. People have it on tattoos on their arms. Just for reference, if you're still like, I'm not convinced about that seal, this is the Chicago seal, and this is their flag. And the Chicago seal, they don't use that much. It's very busy. There's every color imaginable. I can't imagine reading that at a distance at all. But what I kind of want to get across is, as we go through this design process, there's nothing that says your seal and your flag have to look the same. They can look different, and that's fine. Chicago's a prime example. However, I will say, the Amsterdam coat of arms and their flag does go really well together. Kudos to them on their branding. Well, what they didn't do is they didn't just put that coat of arms and put it on a flag and call it a day, right? They really took some thought. They took a big design element from it. But that's what they did. So your agenda packets have a little more detail, but I'll kind of go over thoughts on the contest. So what we envision is it's open to all residents to submit a design, opening August 8th through September 7th, so right at a month. And I've already reached out to the Regional Office of Education and libraries in our Peoria County to see if they have interest in helping us, the Office of Education, to help us get in front of principals and art teachers in particular, and see if any of their students may want to participate or they want to do it as part of a class thing. The public libraries are very interested. They'll host, you can enter digitally or submit a hard copy. So they'll have the hard copy available for pickup at the libraries. So after that month, we have an idea for a panel of judges from both the community and internal staff, and they're going to cull submissions to no more than 5. So that will be our way of kind of reining in and making sure, one, they're following some good design principles, and we have a little control over it as well. So it's not just, you can vote on any of them. And it doesn't have to be 5. If we only get 5 submissions, we'll probably cull that down to 2 or 3. So that remains to be seen. And then we'll put those 5 submissions back out to the public, and the public will vote on the finalists roughly September 19th to 18th at this point. And again, the public libraries are interested in helping anyone who doesn't have internet access or, with voting, so they can use their computers there, and a librarian can help them as well. And they were all very open to that. They said they help people all the time with just those things. But it will be an online type of voting procedure. And then we reached out to the Peoria Riverfront Museum and talking about an unveiling event, and they were very excited to host that. And they suggested October 22nd to do it as part of their celebration. They're having a community celebration for their 10-year anniversary on that day. So they thought that would be a great event as part of it. It is a free day on that day also, so we hope to have more foot traffic coming through and using their giant screen theater. Just some points so you're aware, flags in general, this one won't be copyrighted. It will be open distribution. People can, like Chicago, alter it, make it their own. It also means that for distribution, even though we'll have key distribution points where we know they're going to sell the flag, it also means that other retail outlets could sell it. It would not be, it's not like holding it close to your chest. So it would be a broader item that people could use. We would, though, house all those official design elements on the county's website, the actual EPS document, the colors, the artist, the background behind what the flag means, all of those things would be on a webpage on our website, of course. So like I said, that is a brief overview of what we're looking at. So I'm happy to go into some more detail, questions or concerns.
I don't know why I'm so excited about this, but
Well, good.
I do have a couple of questions. What does the winner win besides being able to say that they've designed the flag?
Yeah, at this point, that's the main thing. We were hoping that, I guess it would be the November 8th board meeting, perhaps they could get a proclamation from there, but their name would be associated with it when we unveil it, social media. If the board is wanting something more, and we can definitely look at that. But.
My second question is, are we going to work with IT to make sure that there's no ballot stuffing on the online voting? I know that they only have a few curated choices, but I would hate to have a Flaggy McFlag face issue.
Yes. Well, hopefully the judges would call that out. So. But there is a little leeway. I have looked at some online platforms that we'll actually be using, and there are some different options. We could pull it down to, you get one vote total per email. You get one vote a day. There are some, like, you can do it by IP address, so you can kind of get some geographic boundaries. The exact specifics of how often you can vote and are still working out. But if you have a suggestion, you're like, I really only want X, can look at that.
And my final question is, can we make Scott get a tattoo of the flag?
Right there.
Very good.
We're already getting your blood, Scott.
So, Mr. Salzer? Do I
Any other
follow?
questions? Phil, yes.
Does one have to be a Peoria County resident, or is it open to everyone?
The idea is that it will be a flag designed by a resident and voted on by residents. We may run into, with the voting, some concern on that. It may not be exactly, but we'll only be promoting it to people in our area and saying that. I don't know, assuming you get 5 good flag design, I'm not sure if there will be a reason for people to try to be nefarious from, say, Chicago, do a whole bunch. But I haven't been able to, I can't necessarily tell you, no, like, somebody from Tazewell couldn't vote. They may be able to. No. Yes.
So what would happen if response is not very high and we're limited in selection? So we would be prepared just to stop the process? Because I know these are fun, but sometimes these can be very dangerous too.
Yeah. I would say yes. I would say your judges would have that option to be like, you know what, our submissions were not up to par, and maybe this, and then that process stops there. I would think that's part of the reason also to have internal staff on there who can help make that decision. That's what I envision.
Linda?
You cannot submit if you're not a resident. No. Unless you'd like to open it up to more. But like I said, my idea was have residents, submit and residents choose. At the end of the day. Mr. I don't know who to call.
So,
Mr. Dillon in the back.
He's ahead.
so on that though, I think that could limit the scope, because let's just say like Bradley University. Now you have thousands of kids on campus, some graphic arts designer, that it might be kind of cool that somebody from Bradley designed it, but they're not technically, when I went to Marquette, I still kept my Peoria as my residency. So I don't know if limiting it to Peoria County is such a good idea, as we talk about regionalism all the time and let the best design win, that if we happen it. I don't disagree one way or the other, but I'm just thinking you have some talented kids. You even have some talented kids go to ICC in graphic arts that would be potentially looking to do this as their mark for their career. So I would just hate to limit. If we're looking to get as much exposure as possible, maybe it should be open more.
Okay. Yeah. I'm open to it. Whatever. Consensus.
I just personally think there's more pride in it being local. Someone from our area, a resident of Peoria County, personally.
Mr. Ricker?
Always ask about communication plan, promotion, what's your
timeline, and how do you plan to promote this contest and maybe alleviate that we only had 3 submissions? Let's get 300 because we promoted it very well.
Yeah. The timeline is pretty, with putting an October 22nd date on it, that timeline is pretty quick. So I do have, it's kind of in different phases. So the original kind of get the word out. We have kind of a design. I've started on some social media posts to get out there and shareable. I'm hoping also to leverage some community organizations. I have some contacts at Bradley ICC that in their art departments, particularly looking at like the GPEDC, the Chamber of Commerce too, and a lot of them have newsletters, and that gets the word out. I'm hoping, I guess, again, the ROE to get that initial word out in front of our art students. And then, also a similar way with once the judging does come, and so you will stop for a week or 2 and then start up again. So in researching some of it, the city of Newton, Kansas did a really good job on their Facebook. So I'm going to look to the term's R&D, but it means like steal and redesign some of what they did. So they had a really good social media strategy. They got around 50 results, and I thought that would be a nice number. That's a good number. It's still manageable. So I don't know what we'll get, but I'm hoping to utilize some of the things that they did. Yeah.
I think for these high school, I think for these high schools, if you had something where they have a pizza dinner or something like that, it would be something to celebrate it. I don't know what it would be, but just a thought for a class.
Yeah.
Are the entries, do they have to be printed out and submitted, or can they be submitted electronically? And if, let's say somebody, most kids nowadays know a computer better than the rest of us, but let's say somebody doesn't know how to use a computer, they can sketch it out and then we will turn it into a digital file?
Yeah, so there'll be 2 ways to enter. There is a digital, there's an online form where you can upload just, our website's actually great. Our website already allows for just about any type of file upload you want through the forms. So that form's already sketched out and ready. But there's also a hard copy form. So if you want to do it in crayon, you can. That's perfectly fine. And it goes through, that's obviously the big area, little area, and then it has all the rules on the back as well, and that's available to download as well on the website. But what we have planned is if one of these submissions were to make it to the, or be chosen, then we'll have it digitally made, digitally created. So we'll have it turned into a vector artwork that can be used from that part. That's part of the rules. So, but we don't plan on doing that unless it's the winning one necessarily. So.
Very good. A lot of good questions. Anyone else? If not, we'll move on.
Thank you.
Have one resolution, the auditor referendum. I have a motion, please. Steve, Ms. Eden, the second. Discussion. I might give a little bit of history on this. It's way back in 2010, and when I came on, Miss Carol Van Winkle was the auditor at the time. And shortly after, we had a committee, Mr. O'Neill, Tom O'Neill, the chairman, put a committee for efficiency committee, and Mary Ardapple headed up that committee. And part of that reason was to try to bring the technology. We have a lot of technology, and we weren't using our technology within our county. And so first thing they tackled with this technology was the sheriff's office. And come to find out, the sheriff was way ahead of most everybody. He had already started to go paperless out there, and that was Sheriff McCoy back then. And his goal was to electronically have all the citations and arrest warrants, everything go electronically, so that when it came to the court, it would be already done, and they wouldn't have to, every time they filled it out before was duplicated. Everybody's key punching everything back in numerous times. So we went throughout the, I was on that committee along with Mary Ardapple, but we went out throughout the district and tried to update our purchasing department, purchase orders, and make sure that the people who were filing the purchase orders were putting in to the computer system at that stage. They were putting all the data in, which it wasn't being done. It was, so they went to everyone, they had classes downstairs in the training to try to do this. And it brought everybody on speed so that when it came to that next station, the information was there. When the purchase order was entered, they would put the quotes with it, they would have all the different documentation that was in the system, so you could pull it up. One of the other things that was being done was when they received it in, they got their packing list, they would copy that and put it in the system. So all the data was becoming together. And talking with Carol, one of her biggest problems in the auditor's office was getting the data. It was all over the place. It was in a filing cabinet here, filing cabinet here. For her to check to make sure all the things steps were covered, she had to go all over the county offices to get the documents. So that was one technology in our ERP system that was not being done, but it really brought us up, and coincidentally, we're right now looking at a new ERP system. But that was one thing that I think has really changed where we're at. Also in the 2021 was the last time we received a report from the auditor's office. And in the Finance Committee, asked the Finance Department if they could not replicate that same report, because it was basically a report from our checking account of the highest paid vendor collective of all the bills that we paid for the month, down to the lowest, starting with the highest to the lowest of cumulative. And the other thing was what areas were paid and how much were paid. Well, they processed that same thing, and it duplicated the same report that we were getting but no longer got. And on an annual basis, we go on the outside and have an outside audit done within our facility, and they come back with recommendations for changes to make, maybe tighten this up a little bit. We had the credit cards, P cards for the county that they use. Everybody has different ones that are in the position of authority or authorized to use one, and they were tightening up who would authorize or approve the authorization of those P cards. Most everybody went along with it. We did have issues in the auditor's office not wanting to go along with that particular item. But also on our annual audit, we have been recognized, and Scott, you might help me with what the accreditation we've been getting on our annual audit of for the quality of our operation.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. So for as long as I can remember, we've received the highest quality rating possible for our external audit. Also should be noted, and we report this out every year at your Finance Committee, that we're in a group of local governments of which there's less than 5% in the country that prepare their own financial statements. The other 95% have their external auditors prepare the financial statement that then the external auditor is actually auditing.
So my proposal, and not my proposal, what's before you today on the referendum, as you read it in here, there is some particular wording that would go out on the ballot. It says, shall Peoria County eliminate the internal office of the county auditor when Peoria County already has an external auditor and is required by law, as required by law. This will be a cost savings of approximately $150,000 annually. So with that, I just wanted to give that little preface of what my history was, and I'll open up. Anyone have? Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been in Denver for a few days, but I had some time yesterday, and I had a lengthy discussion with Kent Rotherham, who was the auditor for a time here, Peoria County. I think he was the interim auditor. He did say that he felt like he was going to come into the office and there were going to be some things that he had to change, look at more closely. But he came in and he said that Peoria County is great. The policies and procedures that are in place are really good procedures, and everything is checked very well before it's paid. So I was really torn on this just because of the timing, but after speaking with Kent, I am going to support this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Dillon?
Thanks, Vice Chairman Fennell. I think I have a long history like you do around here, and this board, when it's been presented usually with referendums, allows the people to decide on it. So I've never not voted for a referendum to go to the public, just like even in West Peoria here recently, they allowed the people to decide about township government. So not taking any political statements by this vote today, but I do think if it's up here, the people should get a chance to decide it. So I will vote yes to put it on there.
Thank you. Mr. Ricker?
Yeah, very much would echo fellow board member Dillon on that statement of, I think it's good to let the public and the voters decide, provide them the facts and information, and be very clear on pros and cons, and they will make a good decision for the county. So I will be supporting allowing the citizens and voters to make this decision.
All right, thank you. Yes.
I also will be a yes on this. I love the idea of a referendum for many things. I think it helps the community get engaged, which we certainly value the input of our constituents. In addition, I have heard from folks after the last time this was up that there was a lot of confusion. So I think this helps clarify what the voters want as well.
I agree. Thank you. We don't recognize the public on this. Excuse me? You're not the public? You're not a board member, not on this? Okay, then you're the public. Any other comments? Rob? Okay, just a second. Rob?
I won't be supporting this at this time. I feel that the public did vote on this 4 years ago, and since the auditor still has 2 years left of the term, I just don't feel like this is the right time to put this on the referendum. Maybe if it were closer to an election cycle for the actual office, I'd be willing to, but I do feel that the public did have a say, and although it passed by only 19 votes, it did pass, and maybe in 2 years I'll feel differently, but at this time I'm a no.
Yes, she will be still the auditor for 2 more years. Granted, she'll get the salary anyway. What is your question? Yes. We can go with anything on a ballot numerous times. That doesn't mean you can't do that. Okay. Anyone else have any other questions? That's it. Any other questions? All right, please vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. No?
Aye.
Nay.
Wait a minute. Mr. Rosenbaum, were you an aye for this, not an nay?
I'm an aye,
Okay.
voting for it.
Okay, thank you. And now the nays?
Nay.
2? Thank you. Motion carried. Miscellaneous. Any other miscellaneous? Steve?
Since we did not have a finance meeting this month, I'd like for the ability to ask for just a quick timeline on the 2023 budget schedule. Not a lot of detail, but just to give this committee an understanding of the timeline. Thank you.
Sure thing, Mr. Ricker. And Heather, if I leave anything out, please add to my remarks. Revenue and expenditures, both current year projected and next year requested, have been submitted by the departments. The finance team, while also working with ERP implementation, is started to pull those together, and I think we actually have our first budget meeting later this week or sometime this week, where we sit down with individual departments and review their request. We've made those available in the past several years to members of the Finance Committee. So Nancy would have reached out to you, or at least worked with Mr. Fennell to coordinate that. We are on track to get you a recommended budget in time for adoption at your October 13th regular business meeting.
Okay, any other comments? No miscellaneous, okay. Then we go to standing committee agendas. Infrastructure.
Mr. Chairman, all of you will be happy to hear the Infrastructure Committee only had 2 resolutions ordinarily, and so Mr. Ricker's already looked at his watch to see how long I'm going to talk. But they both had to do with the same area, Headington Oaks, and the money in each one of these resolutions will be taken from Headington Oaks Fund. The first one, of course, has been a real problem for us, and that has to do with the erosion caused there in regard to the basin right behind that detention basin, right behind the old nursing home, and it was such a severe problem that when we would have heavy rains and so forth, the rush of the water down the back side hill down to Farmington Road carried a lot of silt and so forth, and this would end up filling up ditches and also going out onto Farmington Road, and the state Illinois Department of Transportation would have to come and clean all that up and so forth, and we heard about it, and it wasn't too pleasant. So anyway, we put out bids, and the bid that we are recommending is by Stark out of Bloomington, who has done some work for us in the past, and they are pretty reliable, and the bid that they submitted was $211,000. Our highway department is asking for $250,000 in case we run into some problems and so forth that were unexpected. The second one, of course, is we are hiring an engineering firm that the highway department is recommending, Maurer and Stouts. That they will oversee this project and see that it's done properly, and we are paying them $20,000, which will come out of Headington Fund as well. So those are the 2 resolutions. I bid you good day.
Thank you, Phil, and you always give a very complete report, and we appreciate that. And you had 11-minute meeting and about a 4-minute recital here, so we appreciate that. So, all right. Ways and Means.
Okay, Ways and Means. Again, Phil, always have fun with you and love your explanation, so good sense of humor. For Ways and Means, this month we had 2 resolutions, the monthly delinquent taxes. I noted during that meeting that this was probably one of the first significant times where the city of Peoria purchased some of these properties to put in the land bank that they created that's trying to help improve the situation with properties that have been turning over and over and over and turning into blight. So this is a collaboration between the city of Peoria and the county working together to help stop that turnover and blight of properties and put some properties into a land bank that will be held to look at future development and improvements within the city. So I think that's a good thing. So that one passed. And then the second item was a resolution for Elections Commission budget amendment. The Elections Commission received a grant of $8,000 some for some security things that they had improved around elections, a couple camera systems and a fire extinguishing system that would help improve that process. So this is a grant that comes from the Illinois State Board of Elections. So it's coming from a government entity, and that was approved unanimously. Those are the only two items, sir.
All right, thank you much, Steve. County operations.
Thank you, sir. We just had one resolution, and that was an appropriation to replace the dryer at PCAPS.
Okay, very good. And the county health, Ms. Duncan.
We just had a lot of good information that came from various departments, but Scott may want to maybe point out certain particulars here.
So I think most of you were here, but just a couple of things to highlight from Health Committee. Received an update from Ms. Williams on Triad. The Center for Prevention of Abuse, along with the Ombudsman, came to provide an update there, and their data points are in the Health Committee packet. If anybody that's not on Health Committee would like to see what those are, just let us know, and we'll get those to you. And then maybe most importantly, Kathy Brown from GPEDC was here to talk about broadband and where we're at in that process. Probably the next step in that process as we continue to finalize the local survey data that we've been collecting is look to do an RFP for an engineer that will actually finalize with a lot better detail where our coverage gaps are when compared to the national coverage map, and then we'll be able to use that hard data to then formulate grant applications for both state and federal monies to improve broadband infrastructure across the county. Happy to answer any questions.
Randy?
Scott, will there be any way to show us that map as it relates to our districts?
Yes, we can overlay the county board districts onto that data set. Absolutely, we actually started working on Friday to geolocate the survey respondents. The GIS department did that yesterday, so a very quick turnaround there. So we will absolutely be able to do both the survey data and the coverage data. We can apply that to your county board districts. Absolutely.
Good question. It'd be good for each one of us to have. Yes, Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to also point out that the township officials have been meeting pretty regularly to talk about expanding Peoria County's waste and recycling services. I did want to point out that there is a survey online that if you live in unincorporated Peoria County, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So I do want to give kudos to Becca with our sustainability department, and also Derek Romer, who's with Limestone Township, who's been spearheading this.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Anyone else? Land use? I don't have land use, but go ahead, land use. Thank you.
Perfect. We had one case, pretty easy, going from industrial to residential property right next to it out by the Monica grain elevators. So it's 0.6 of an acre being combined with the residential. So it's going from industrial to
Interesting.
residential. So that was unanimous.
Was it spirited?
Nope, it was about a 3-minute meeting.
Wow.
I might have set a new record yesterday.
Oh, very, very good, very good. Okay. Then we get down to miscellaneous. Any miscellaneous? Yes, Ms. Blair.
I just, since he will be gone by the time we have our county board meeting, I just wanted to wish Tom McBride, our Elections Commission's director, whatever his official title is, a fond farewell as he is leaving.
Very nice, thank you. Yeah, Friday's his last day, yes. Any other? Yes. Jennifer?
I just wanted to ask Scott if we could share the surveys that were discussed today on the website and social media.
Yes.
Anyone else? If not, I'll adjourn and we can go.